Please, can we put your hands together for the convener? I knew of Bankole Williams from afar, but last year I had a podcast that I paused and we had a 2-hour session.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And that changed everything, for real. So my first question, sir, is, I'm going to speak from that podcast. I'm going to be, You said that, because I remember you were a pastor in university. Like, I said I'm coming for you. No, please, I have to be very real now. You were a pastor in university teaching about Ezekiel and fire, Elijah and John the Baptist. Oh, I researched that you used to pray that meditation was not your language. Now you're doing it. So what changed? And I heard it was 2020, you had the awakening. What happened?
Okay. So what was our ex-pastor? Right? Yeah. So I had an interesting experience in 2020. Pretty much like, well, mine was a bit different, but everybody in the world was just wondering what was going on. And I think I got to a point where I was wondering what was happening in the world and why everybody was acting the way we were acting. And I'm saying this because at the time, I didn't really see so many people showing strength, right? It seemed like we were all puzzled by everything that was happening. And I was in a very deep, dark space, right? Emotionally trying to just figure my way around. And I remember I was praying then. I was praying to God to just get me out of this state because my energy was not right at all. And I remember that period, all I could just do was just worship, and I had some encounters, right? And in one of those encounters, God began to tell me specific things about this new dispensation. Not only that, he began to tell me specific things that he wanted me to do, right? And how he was going to use me to bring a new wave, right? A new wave of knowledge and inspiration, for the world. But beyond that, I remember one time I had an experience, what many may call an out-of-body experience. There are different people who have those kinds of experiences. And mine was, I'd never had any like that. I was sleeping and it was almost as though I was out of myself, but in there. And then I heard a word that was so loud in my consciousness. And this is a real experience. I've never, some people have these kinds of experiences regularly, right? But that's not me. And it was so loud in my consciousness that I knew that I needed to take note of the word, right? So I immediately got out of sleep. It was a word I didn't consciously recall I'd ever heard before. So I went online to research the word, and the word is homeostasis. So it hit me that the word existed. I was like, oh, wow, there's actually something like this. But the second thing that really hit me was the meaning of the word. Right? Homeostasis is the regulation of the conditions on the inside so that you can regulate external conditions. And that experience set me on a path. I began to research. I began to become curious about science, about the human existence, ancient civilization, different things, just to really understand the stage of evolution we had gotten to as humankind. Right? And all that exposed me to some really deep information. And the summary of it all is that there is a tangible world, which all my life I had been neglecting, on the inside, that is responsible for all the experiences that we have on the outside. And I felt like, I had been, short of saying deceived, maybe not deceived, but I'd been unaware all my life of this real tangible world of existence inside of me. And I just felt like, when you've seen a treasure and you just want the world to know, I just felt like I need the world to also know this, because for where we are at right now, it's important that we're mindful of this. So that really was my own experience and how I got to this point.
Last year, in that conversation, so he comes to me and he says that, this is Banky, that, so Bankole, I'm calling Banky, sorry, Bankole.
Anyone's fine.
that he's experienced, you've gone to places, you've experienced healing outside church, you've experienced a lot of things. I'm like, what? And then you started talking about spirituality and science. And all my life, I know science is good, but I haven't seen the connection between spirituality and science. And you kept hammering that it's an extension, and I want to share about that.
Are we ready for this?
Let's do it.
You see,
so guys, just listen. Just listen, because even which I was afraid. I'll be sincere, because please, I'm a Christian still. Oh.
Now, you see, if we want to understand where we are, we need to look at where we're coming from. History reveals a lot. I tell people, data does not lie. As in, I would show data and you can argue with the data. Don't argue with me. Do you understand? As in, when you are able to show proof, tangible proof that something works, you can't argue it. You can't argue with the law of gravity, no matter what you believe.
But Banks, we're taught that faith doesn't go on data.
You see, because I've realized that we mystify what we do not understand. And rather than seek understanding, we just alienate ourselves from those things. So my own point is to demystify what seems to be mystical, because when you can understand the science of it, it's a lot easier for people to embrace. If we check in history, there was a time that science and spirituality were one, and that is the truth. There was a time that, so to speak, civilization was run by the Roman Empire and the church was responsible for civilization. And at that time, science and spirituality were one. And then there was a guy by the name of René Descartes who he needed scientists to work on cadavers, right? They needed to work on bodies to really understand, this temple, what it entails. How can we fix this temple that God has created? Needed to understand that. But the church controlled civilization and they were in charge of the bodies. And he felt like science needed to be pushed and advanced beyond where it was. So he came up with a theory. And he said that let's give this convoluted thing, which we don't seemingly understand, called the mind, to the church. And let's give the body to science, so that scientists can advance their knowledge and understanding. And there began the separation of science and spirituality, where we feel like the body, and the understanding of the body and tangible things is for scientists to demystify, and then the realm of the spirit, the realm of the mind, that intangible realm, can be handled by religion. But guess what? Along the way, a realm of science called quantum physics came about. And quantum physics is the study of the unseen realm or subatomic particles. Classical physics has to do, for those of you who are not scientists, I hope I can help you, right? But I will. I know how to demystify stuff and make it simple. Classical physics has to do with the law of the seen, or the laws that relate to the tangible realm. So a guy called Isaac Newton one day came out, he saw an apple fall from a tree, right? And he wanted to understand, what law was responsible for the apple falling down to the larger body, right? And he was able to uncover the law of gravity, and the classical laws of physics were birth, right? But classical laws of physics relate to this tangible realm, the realm of the seen. But quantum physics relates to the realm of the unseen, subatomic particles, things that we can't see with the natural eye. And guess what? That study is beginning to demystify what we call spiritual. And that is the truth. I ask people sometimes, I say, when you say spiritual, what does it mean? What does that really mean? Can you simplify it? What does it mean? Does it mean when I'm, do all the gymnastics and all of that? Or does it refer to something that's beyond a physical, tangible realm, which is what quantum physics has begun to demystify? And the truth is, as these guys are hacking some of these things in the unseen, they are helping us understand our human existence much more. I'll tell you one. So some guys, they said, okay, we want to know whether the laws in the classical world operate in the unseen realm. So they wanted to know whether if I excite an apple, for instance, it falls to the larger body, if that same principle applies when it comes to things we do not see. So they were looking at, in science, we're told that you're not just one mass, you're made up of several cells. Cells are made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, all those things. So those are unseen particles, so to speak. So they wanted to see if the laws that apply in the physical apply in that realm. So they had like microscopes to be able to look. So they say the electron orbits around the nucleus. So if we excite the electron, will it fall like an apple to the larger body being the nucleus? So these guys, quantum physicists, they excited the electron and they noticed that it wasn't operating the same laws. They noticed that it was falling like it was falling down a flight of stairs. So it would lose energy, gain energy, lose energy, and gain energy. So they said, you know what, let's study further. Let's do some measurements. So they wanted to know where the electron was, and then they observed an interesting phenomenon. They noticed that everywhere they searched for the electron, it was there, showing signs of omnipresence. If they looked up, it was there. And I'm telling you, this is pure science. Don't take my word for it. Go and research this. You see it. Looked up, it was there. Looked down, it was there. Looked left, it was there. Looked right, it was there. And then he said, this is very interesting. Then they observed another interesting thing. They observed that every time they turned their back on the electron, so they left, they moved away, right? The electron they noticed that it had two properties, that it collapsed from being a wave function, so intangible, to becoming tangible, to becoming a particle. So they found out that it had two qualities. It existed as space, wave, when they turned their back on it, but when they looked at it, right, it collapsed. So that thing that was a wave collapsed and it became tangible. It became a particle, so it became tangible. So they were wondering, this is weird, as in, how is it that it has one quality all of a sudden, and then when we look away, it has a totally different quality? And then they found out that it was the human mind that was impacting on the outcome. So it was the presence of the mind of the observers that caused the wave of possibilities to become tangible reality. And that's where the concept of mind over matter came from. Meaning that the human mind in an unseen reality impacts on reality. It determines whether your possibilities, and there are infinite possibilities that exist, can become your reality.
So Banky, you're saying that thoughts are alive?
Of course, most definitely. Most definitely. And if we say thoughts are alive, where does all of that exist? Is that in a physical realm? Have you touched a thought before? It exists in an intangible realm. So that means that that intangible realm that exists in an unseen reality that we don't see governs this reality. And quantum physics has demystified that and has shown evidence of it. So tell me, how are they not connected?
In that conversation we had, because I'm just bringing it to the public, you spoke a lot about placebo effect.
Yeah.
You spoke a lot about placebo effect.
Yeah.
He said to me that the human body is the greatest pharmaceutical company on earth.
Yeah.
And that if you understand how to drive your thought life, you can heal from your body. Please share.
Oh, most definitely. And, I'm a Christian, so please permit me if I make reference to, scriptural texts that I'm familiar with. You see, the challenge that I have is we read those things with very plain eyes. We just read it like a story. If we only understood that there is also a scientific ramification to what it is that we read, we would uncover deep secrets. The problem is we just read it like a story. It says, a merry heart doeth good like what? You gloss over that thing, but do you know that there is a science to that? There is a science to joy. And there is something about elevating your emotional state that can heal your body. And there is something about, reducing your emotional state or reducing your vibration that can harm your body. It says that a broken heart, right, drieth the bones. Says the body is the temple. The problem is we just read it like a story. I think it was you I was telling. I was saying to you, can you imagine visiting the Sultan of Brunei's temple? Right? Can you imagine the sophistication of that temple? Right? Because he's wealthy. He's going to spend money on the most advanced things and technology. It's going to be beautiful. And then you say you are the temple of God and your body will not be sophisticated. As in, we have absolutely no clue how powerful this system called the human body is. Absolutely no clue, right? And that's what scientists are uncovering. That there is something about this thing. I say this a lot. God loves to hide. He has a PhD in hiding, right? He hides gold in the earth. He hides a furniture industry in the forest. He hides oil, in the ocean, right? Loves to hide. Think about it. I was saying to someone, when was the internet, created? When was it invented? And the person goes, maybe late 1990s, early 2000s. I'm like, no, that's when it was discovered, right? The internet had always been there, but God hid it where? In space, in air. There are radio frequencies here. We don't see it, but it's here. He hides. It's his MO. He loves to do that. Now, God was looking for a place to hide himself. Can you guess where he hid himself? And then you tell me that this body lacks sophistication. And I can give you tons of examples, right? And I can show you scientific proof, and I can also show you spiritual proof that would help you know how powerful. So when Ronsiade is talking about, you carrying divinity, it is a fact. It is a truth. I remember one time, I used to take Amstel Malta back in the day. I really liked it. So I just finished downing a can of Amstel Malta. And then I went on Facebook, right? And then I see this I see this post about fake Amstel Malta. I'm like, I don't understand. Why did I see it before? So I'm curious. I'm like, okay, I see the qualities of the fake one. Let me go and check the one I just finished downing. And I look at it, and it has all the qualities of the fake one. I'm like, damn. So it was a night, I slept off. My goodness. my stomach was like the site of a Royal Rumble. The way I purged that night. Just like, what is this? So early hours of the morning, I was in pain and I was like, man, I need what's going on here? So I went online, to kind of check what's with this fake Amstel Malta thing. And then I stumbled on a post by Amstel Malta saying that all the news that's been going around about the Amstel Malta being fake is fake news because they repackaged. So what I drank was actually real. But my mind thought it was fake. And guess what happened? My body manifested it. Mind over matter. Let me tell you, there is a connection between the mind and the body. The problem is we think that there is no connection, right? If you think it in your mind, the cells of your body are always spying on what's going on in your mind so that they can receive instruction. The problem is you look in the mirror and see one person. Every human being is a colony, right? A colony of over 50 trillion cells. In very simple terms, there are 50 trillion citizens that make up Bankole Williams. And those citizens are always looking up to Aso Rock of the mind, waiting for instructions on how to show up. And they can show up as cells that will be healthy, or they can show up as cells that will lead to disease. And the truth of the matter is most people don't realize that a lot of the ailments that people are experiencing are as a result of the as a result of the status of their minds. If they can begin to think the right thoughts and feel the right emotions, it can create the right instructions for a biological upgrade, right, or a biological downgrade.
Bankole. What is really in the same flow of what you read from the Bible?
Yeah.
Paul said, "Forgetting what lies behind me."
Yeah.
Can this thing happen like this? Can there be a wholesale transformation or must it be retail? How did it happen for you? Is it a retail approach or it can happen like this?
Well, life is a journey. So I'll use the analogy of hitting a wall, right? So it's two things, frequency or intensity. If I keep hitting this wall, right, one day, the wall is going to come down, right? Intensity. If I come with a wrecking ball, with one move, I can bring this wall down, right? So it's either or, a fusion of both, right? Now, for me, I have been on a journey, but I've also had some wrecking balls. And sometimes life will throw you a curveball, right? Sometimes it's almost like you need a wake-up call to wake up. Something happens and you're like, man, life cannot continue this way, right? And that's really pretty much what happened to me because, to be very honest, the transformation, this thing happened in 2020. The transformation that I have experienced, the community that I've been able to build and all that, there is definitely some intensity that has come into my own journey that has brought about, some of the changes that I'm experiencing, right? And for me, when I think about the world as it is right now, I recognize that there is a season that we need to take advantage of, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. And the season is now. Because where the world is going, if humans don't evolve, we will go extinct. And when I mean extinct, we'll be here, but we would struggle. We need to evolve in this season that requires an evolution. And as we evolve, we can then begin to change the world. When I look at everything that's happening in the world, all the negativity, all the toxicity. You look at the news. I don't know about you guys, but it's almost like there's just negativity everywhere, right? You go on the news, there's just negative stuff happening. Go on social media, negative, and the funny thing is when you expose yourself to that information, it causes you to feel some energy. But we feel that the energy is the effect of what we've seen. And we fail to realize that the energy we are giving is the cause of what is coming. I need to take that again. We think that the energy that we're feeling is just the effect of what we've seen or what we're experiencing. But what we don't realize is that the energy that we're also giving is the cause of what is coming. And until we collectively begin to change, I tell people the currency of the world has changed. The currency of this dispensation is energy. When COVID happened, the people who were able to thrive were the people who their internal energy was stronger than whatever was coming externally. What is immunity? The energy that you have within to fight what is coming from outside. That was what determined who, so to speak, survived. And that is the world that we're in. Energy is the currency. And if we don't have a system for learning and being equipped with the information to sustain our energy in spite of the chaos that's being thrown at us, we will decelerate, and be pedestrian. And in being pedestrian, I'm telling you, we will not be able to soar above what's happening in the world.
So 2 questions from this, and then we round up. If we had to do a ratio.
What do you say?
If we had to do a ratio, it's like 1 to 1 million, or 1 to 100,000. Or let's be fair, 1 to 10,000. The collective consciousness is they embrace toxic energy. It's their fault, it's all they know. They embrace wrong confessions, they speak negativity. Everybody's engaged in the world of TikTok and Instagram in a wild way. We're consuming energy, negativity, and all that. And I don't think the balance is fair. I think those who are conscious of what is positive is way less than that. So my question is, if the collective energy is still not high vibration, those that are trying, should they keep trying? Because it's like you're against the world, literally.
Well, one man came into the world and shook the entire world that we know, that God knows how many years after we're still talking about him, right? So I hear you, and this is reality. There's so much negativity in the world. But what is interesting is, I find that there are pockets of people like me that are around the world who recognize that now is the time to be vocal. Now is the time to talk about this thing. And look at how many people are here. These people are connected to another community of people, right? And as we take this message out there, we can begin to influence the world. And what is interesting for me is not really only quantity, it's quality. And I would explain that. What really determines results is coherence, and not numbers matter, but coherence matters more. And I would explain. We're maybe 120 people or so here, right? We can have 100 of us who believe in this particular message. But the question is, are we aligned? Are we coherent? Because if we are coherent, the signal that we will put out into the world that can bring about change would be very strong.
In our last conversation, so I used to be afraid of John Obidi them. My father is a pastor. John will say energy and vibration, like, you sound like Einstein. But over time, I've been able to understand it, even through the Bible. And you kept telling me about heaven on earth. Heaven on earth, heaven on earth. And that there's a peace that there's a peace, there's a certain vibration that you are in. Please share that as we close out this session.
I'll take some time. So I'm gonna share this in two ways. Some of us believe that heaven is a geographical location above, right? In the afterlife, when we will find out. But I also recognize that there is a heaven on earth, right? There's a dimension of heaven on earth. And in the same vein, if there's polarity, heaven on earth, then there definitely is hell on earth. Right? Do we all agree? Yeah. Uh-huh. Now, it says, if your hand causes you to sin, what should you do?
Chop it off.
I can't hear you. What should you do?
Chop, cut it off.
Have you sinned before? Answer me now. Yes. Why do you have a hand? No, please tell me now. Why do you have a hand?
I've not seen before now.
If I hear, you just sinned now.
Chop, cut it off.
Right? Now, when I ask this question, people say, it's not literal now. It's figurative. And then I say to them, in the same verse, it says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It's better for you to enter the kingdom without a hand than for you to burn in hell. And I said, so why then do you think that the hell in that same verse is literal? As in literal fire. And then they are mute. It's the same verse now. So if it's figurative for parts, then why should it not be figurative for the rest? Right? Now, what that communicates to me is that there is a deeper meaning, because the letter killeth. Right? If you read things and you just only take them literally, you will be headed in the wrong direction. So it communicates to me that there definitely is a hell on earth, and there is a heaven on earth. It says the kingdom is what? Righteousness, peace, joy. These are elevated states of being. That's what brings heaven in your direction. In the same vein, there is hell on earth. And hell on earth, in very simple terms, for me, is stress. And I would explain it. Whenever there is a threat in the environment, right? And the threat could be something you see on Instagram. The threat could be the dollar exchange rates. The threat could be the economy in Nigeria, some news that you see. Right? When you see that, it's a threat. Whenever there is a threat in the environment, we switch unconsciously into self-preservation or survival mode. Typical example, if a wild animal comes here, forget anything that peace. You would switch into survival. You would run for protection and self-preservation. Right? It's just the way we operate. Now, what happens when we're in self-preservation mode is that the body releases certain chemicals that cause you to do the impossible. Some of you will run faster than Usain Bolt, right? If there's a threat in the environment, how many of you have ever been chased by a dog before? And then you did the impossible, right? You jumped over a fence, you jumped over a gutter, you did something impossible. The question is, where did that energy come from? Right? That energy did not jump on you. It was activated from inside of you. Right? So the energy that you should be using for digesting food, right? That's not the moment to digest food. It's converted to energy that goes to your legs and to your hands for self-preservation. I need to be able to fight the threat or run away from a threat. That's what happens. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What if the threat is not a dog or a wild animal? What if the threat is social media? What if the threat is your boss in the office? What if the threat is your bank account? Right? What if the threat is that unpaid bill? What happens to the body? The body does the same thing. It goes into self-preservation mode and activates the stress centers. You start thinking negative thoughts. You start releasing the chemistry that's equal to what you're thinking in your body, right? You start releasing the adrenaline, the cortisol in your body, and you are in a state of stress. And whenever you are stressed, there is a rise in the temperature of your body, which we generally call to be fever, that causes the citizenry of your body to burn, which I call hell on earth. Right? I am telling you that there are a lot of people who live their lives like this and they think it is normal. Every day, always on the edge, every day, always living like there is something.
Burnout.
Just
overwhelm, burnout, anxiety.
Consistently, right? And you don't realize that you are in a state of incoherence. There's no harmony in your system. You are sending a jagged signal to the citizenry of your body to produce results that match that signal. But on the flip side is heaven on earth. And the exact opposite of stress is the word that I heard on that day when I had what I called an out-of-body experience. Right? The exact opposite is homeostasis. And homeostasis is inner balance. Homeostasis is inner peace. That there will be chaos on the outside, but that chaos on the outside is not what you are experiencing on the inside. That you know how to regulate from inside, and that the peace on the inside is what will translate into the results that you experience on the outside. When there was a storm, a crisis situation, an economic downturn, and Jesus and his disciples were on a boat, what was he doing? He was sleeping. Absolute bliss. A state of inner balance. Whereas every other person was in chaos, crisis mode. How come you're sleeping? And then what does he do? He says, peace, be still. The pre-qualification for his pronouncement was that he was already in a state of peace. The world on the outside could respond to the status he had embodied on the inside. Right? And this is what heaven on earth really is. Recognizing that you're not a victim of circumstances and situations, but you are a co-heir and a co-creator. And with the way you think and feel, you are putting into this world, this universe, a seed that will determine what comes back in your direction that will produce the results that you have. When I read about the children of Israel, they saw all the miracles. They saw how the Egyptians, so to speak, were punished, all that, right? And God that promised the promise, and think about it, that promised the promise said, I have heard the murmuring and complaining of the children of Israel. Now, what does that mean? What's murmuring? Murmuring is inner grumbling, inner dialogue. I thought he only heard prayer points. He said he heard their inner state. And in as much as there was a promise, it was almost as though he was swearing that as surely as I live, that inner conversation that I hear, right, will override this thing. And this is the challenge with a lot of us. It is that we've relegated our personal power to the background. What is your personal power? What distinguishes you from every other animal out there? It is the ability to self-regulate. It is a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, that is largest relative to the entire size of the brain in human beings than every other animal. It is that capacity to choose how you think, to choose how you feel, and to choose how you show up to life. The problem is we've been showing up less than greatness. Whereas your authentic identity is oneness with God. Thank you.
Please clap for him. If you hear God in your pastor's voice, you're wrong. I'm being real with you. You're wrong. If you think in your pastor's voice, you're wrong. If you imagine in your churches, you're wrong. You have to get to a point where you know God for yourself. Questions, please. Just 2, 3, 4 questions and we're good. By the way, the next session is with Adaora and John Obidi, and I know them. I'm sitting on Adora's seat. She comes out. Let me take the anointing.
So,
questions?
We didn't
Past.
Past.
So, quick questions.
Question.
Just raise your hand up.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point. I'm also very.
He asked you a question.
Who?
That's fine. That's fine.
Labi. No, he should.
It's okay.
What?
No, ask.
Okay.
Eh?
What's
the? Oh, now ask now, please listen.
Okay, please, sir.
Mr. Ambrose first, then I'll take. That's another.
That's 3 questions.
It's just you there.
Okay,
Mr. You won't take Akin Labi.
No, he's next.
Okay.
After Mr. Ambrose. Elders first. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you for this. I want to ask you, Anki, what took you so long to do this? You're looking at a broken man. I'm the pastor for maybe how many years, I don't know, for a very long time. Now, I had this position, over the years, and I had so many resistance. I was ostracized severally. Give the point. Now, the long question, but I'm sure you found an answer to it. Because with this, we are pushing this narrative. It's making sense to me. It's resonating. I'm a bit old now. There's no much fighting me. But I listened and I'm just surprised. And I wonder what took you so long. Because I was the only person.
Wow.
You know what it is when you're the only person?
Yeah.
Somebody commits adult fornication and they say, put it on the platform. Wow. And I asked him, where else would he go to?
Wow.
If not, who will teach him? So I'm asking you now, we have to strike a balance. People hear this, and they keen, most of us identify with it, but what happens when we meet resistance? Because the people that we're going to face, some are paying our bills, some are people that we are working with, some are even our spouses. When you throw this narrative outside, how do you strike that balance? Wow. Now, at one time, I was cursed. He said, and maybe I was not as strong-willed as you guys are, and I fell. This will happen to you, and it did. You see, I lost my leg. I don't want to say this openly. My coming here is a big. I didn't know about this, But I spoke with Ken's almost wife, and she just said a lot of things to me. But this is where I'm going to. They're going to push us back to the world with these ideologies, with these beliefs, which I strongly affirm. How do we strike a balance? So,
Beautiful.
Sorry.
Can I?
Let him answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel you.
Sorry, can we just like celebrate him?
Yeah. Honestly.
It's crazy.
I have been.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
They've called an intervention on me before. I have been told that I'm running a cult.
After this one, you can go.
And funny thing is that my community members now call me Capo. I have, different things have happened. My friend Rontiade is like, Bankole, let's just go to the streets. And
You want to follow you?
I'm an advocate of
Tactics. Chess game.
Right? I'm telling you.
Chess.
There are different ways to kill a frog. I believe in a principle called pacing and leading. Right? You see, social conditioning is strong. It's a stronghold. Mindsets are strong. People hold on to what is familiar.
Sorry, sir.
Pacing and leading.
Pacing and leading, I'll explain it. People hold on. In fact, let me tell you how people hold on to familiar so much that they would select familiar misery over foreign happiness. I am telling you. Right? And it's also we must also understand how the brain works. The brain is programmed to automate what we repeat. So once you do something repeatedly, without thinking, you have automated that process. So can you imagine having been told something for 30-something years of somebody's life? It's now automatic.
Subconscious.
Do you understand? It's an automatic way of seeing life. And then Bankole now comes and says, there's a different way to look at it. He will face resistance. Right? So I have learned to pace before leading. So what is pacing and leading? Pacing for me is meeting people where they are and looking like we are like.
That's it. That's it.
This guy knows how to do that. Looks like, we're like.
That's it.
Because once you establish a connection, you can lead.
That's it. Catch them.
In the presence of rapport, anything is possible.
Yeah.
And this is a fact.
Profound.
In the presence of rapport, anything, once there is a connection, you can influence. The problem is we want to influence without first connecting. So I will look like you, sound like you, connect with you, and then I will lead you. There are people here who are members of my community, right? And they are so invested in it. But I knew them when there was a resistance. As in, some of them, I say, now. I knew them when there was a resistance. But I knew that I just needed to pace. Meet them where they are. Don't argue too much. Be understanding. Relate with them. Drink with them. Jesus understood this. He went where they were. Let's look alike. And then at some point, you know your intent. At some point, you can lead or navigate, right? Let me tell you how pacing and leading is. I remember, I love telling stories. When I was doing my NYSC several years ago, I served in the time of a DG of NYSC called Walter Oki, right? Then it was said that changing your posting was like passing through the eye of a needle. The guy was difficult. In fact, they said he used to go to the computer room and scatter everything, right? My mom knew his wife's friend, and the wife said, I know my husband. They can't change your posting. So I was posted to Kaduna. That was around where there was the Kaduna crisis and everything. I'm like, why would you send me here? So when I got to Kaduna, I met other disgruntled coppers like me, right? We were unhappy to be there, right? And none of us liked the DG. So one day they come on the parade ground and they announce that, oh, the DG of NYSC is going to be speaking to us tomorrow, right? And I heard people say, that man, wicked man, when he comes on stage, we will boo him, we won't clap, we will stone him. The following day, we get on the parade ground and then they announce, oh, the DG of NYSC. People barely clapped. People were grumbling. The man, understanding this principle, knew the opposition he would meet. And he did the most brilliant thing that anyone could ever do. He established rapport, pacing. He started by singing a song that every Nigerian artist or every Nigerian knows, or singing a song by a legendary Nigerian artist that everybody loves. And a song that everybody knows. Who can guess that artist? Legendary, legend. Fela Anikulapo Kuti. So he inserts his name in the song. So the song is Water, you know, Get Enemy. So instead of Water, you know, Get Enemy, he now puts Walter, you know, Get Enemy. His surname is Oki. He now puts Oki Olota. He now points the mic at the audience and everybody is singing Water, you know, Get Enemy. And I am like, what is going on?
Oh, gee.
Everybody is singing. And this guy then starts speaking, and by the time he was done, people were whistling, people were clapping, screaming. I said, So this is how to convert a foe to a friend. You pace,
And you lead.
and then you lead.
So we'll do one more question. One more. Akilabi, I think they've sacrificed the question. No, don't worry, Akilabi. We know you know it, the answer.
You can't ask the question.
Why?
I'm wondering why Akilabi has spoken in the song meetings several times. Yes.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Why is feedback here?
So, okay, so
Actually, it's because of the time. There's a feedback from the mic here. So please, sir, don't ask like I've never said one. Ask direct questions. In fact, I want to your name and then ask the question. I'm sure you're solving it.
All right. My name is Alex Ihanacho. So my question is on trauma, especially the kind of traumas that live with you always. You know, there are some kind of traumas that every day they are with you, you see them, they manifest. So how do we get to handle those kind of experiences so that we can remain in the state of homeostasis?
Go to balcony therapy session. I'm joking.
Wonderful question. You know, I'll just look for a way to summarize it. Trauma is a wound. And some of us have been living with different wounds from when we were kids. We were in a very suggestible state and we were wounded. And you know, what you said for some people is valid, that something that happened to them when they were kids, you know, till now, they still are victims of that experience. So there's a way they were spoken to, there's a way they were parented, and now they still look at life through those lenses. They end up, in fact, we found out that sometimes if people are not reparented, they end up parenting like their parents, right? Now, if you have a wound, I think the first thing is to recognize that there is one. And that's where self-awareness comes. A lot of us have dealt with things in our past and we have swept them underneath the carpet and we don't want to open up that file. But I'm telling you, whether you go there or not, it is still influencing your life. It's a stronghold, right? So I think the first step is self-awareness. Recognizing that there is a wound that needs healing. Now, one, you know, some of my beliefs have changed over time. One thing that I know that can really, really help is recognizing the power that you have to change what is happening on the inside of you. Now, what do I mean? A lot of the traumas that we have are perceptions that we have about experiences. So something happened. Some other person may have had that experience, but their perception was different, right? So there is a way you look at that experience that's determining the person that is showing up to life today. So what does that mean? Perception needs to change. Now, perception can be changed by you as an individual if you know what to do, right? Perception can also be changed by the intervention of somebody who is experienced with helping to change perception. And that would definitely be someone who is a therapist. Therapy looks backwards and they understand what they need to do to help fix the problem of perception that would help with the healing of the wound. But as regards what I, as an individual, so to speak, can do, number one is acknowledging the wound. Number two is recognizing what meaning you attach to that particular event that has created the perception that you're experiencing. And then the third thing for me, in as much as I've not really talked about this, is a practice of meditation. And I have seen this work. And I know that there's not so much conversation around this particular subject, but it is a fact.
Can break it down.
That wound that person is experiencing is internal, is inside. So if we want to fix that wound, we must then know how to go in to break the bonds that those wounds or experiences have on you. The question is, how do I do this? You must have a system of shutting your eyes and dissociating from this external reality to go to the warehouse, the storehouse of the wound and that experience. And that storehouse is your subconscious mind. And until you know how to go to where that file is and replace it with a new file, people struggle. So what does that look like? It means that you then have to know how to think new thoughts that will override the old thoughts that are leading to that experience, and also feel the energy or the emotions that will override the energy. I see you guys are signaling to stop, right? That will override the energy that you're experiencing. But if you would want to know more about, how this can happen, stay tuned. Very soon, you would see some information that will let you know about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you.